Welcome, everyone, to the Divorced Do's and Don'ts Show. I'm Lisa Decker, your host. I am a certified divorce financial analyst and a real estate collaboration specialist in divorce. Having done this work for 14 years, I've seen a lot of the do's and definitely the don'ts. And that's what this show is about, helping you to find the help and hope that you need and avoid problems that may become permanent. We see a lot of common, costly, permanent mistakes, and we want to help you avoid those. So I am very excited today to talk about a new approach to divorce, the upside down divorce. And I will tell you that while I have never been divorced, I'm a grandchild of divorce. And this work is so important to me because in my grandparents' situation, their divorce so fractured the family that I did not know half of my family until just a few years ago. A whole lifetime gone by without knowing people that should have been in my life. And I want to help other families avoid that. I also understand the curveballs that life can throw at you. I'm a widow, I'm a two-time breast cancer survivor, and I'm a caretaker to a mom with dementia and brain cancer. So listen, life can be difficult, but there are ways to get help. And we are here to help you through the difficult challenges of divorce. You don't have to go this alone. And we're glad that you're here with us live today or watching the recording later on. And it is my extreme pleasure to welcome Andrew McConaughey. Andrew and I are longtime colleagues and friends, and you are going to learn some great stuff today. He is co-owner of McConaughey Counseling in Alpharetta with his wife, Tracy. And for over 20 years, they have specialized in working with couples in various stages of their relationship, including couples who are divorcing and those who are divorced and need co-parenting assistance. And in any stage, Andrew hopes to help them develop the healthiest relationship possible. And he has served and is a member of he served as a board president of the Collaborative Law Institute of Georgia, and he is currently a member of Divorcetown, of which I am the founder and CEO. And we are proud to have him as a part of our network, and also the Amicable Divorce Network, which I'll be talking about on another show. So Andrew, welcome to our show today.
Thanks so much, Lisa.
And Andrew, so tell us a little bit about the upside down divorce process and how does it differ from the traditional way of divorcing?
So the traditional way that most people are aware of has to do with each spouse hiring an attorney, and basically the attorneys negotiate and navigate between them, sometimes with a mediator involved also, where in the two areas that they have to decide on are the parenting plan, which is basically the agreements around the children, and then the financial agreements part. And those two documents have to be negotiated back and forth. And basically you have attorneys sending over a proposal for those things, and then the other attorney responding with a different proposal, and it's going back and forth. And essentially, oftentimes there's a lot of challenges in that process because of the kind of win-lose kind of mentality with a lot of people, and frankly a lot of attorneys. Not all attorneys for sure. Many of them are very amicable, but it can become sort of a tug of war. So that's the traditional way of going about it, and most people are kind of aware of that. So the upside down divorce process, the reason why it's called upside down is because you end with attorneys, you don't begin with attorneys. So because it is ultimately a legal process that you have to file with the courts, because you're legally married, you have to become legally divorced. There has to be some legal process to that in attorneys, but it's at the end versus at the beginning. So instead, it starts with a mental health person who is trained in developing parenting plans, like myself or Tracy, and there's many others in the Atlanta area. And we are basically what's called a neutral, which means that we are not on either spouse's side. We are trying to help them develop their parenting plan together. And in the process, we also try to encourage them to communicate more effectively with each other and collaborate more effectively with each other, and learn some skills that will not only help them develop the parenting plan, which is a legal document essentially, but then also take those skills into their post-married life and co-parenting divorce life, and have a good, hopefully good relationship with each other, because that's the most important thing. Once that is finished, that parenting plan is done, then we pass them off to a financial expert like yourself, Lisa, who's also a neutral. And that person is like Lisa, you are an expert in finance, and an expert in finances specifically related to divorce. So, and then you or someone like you helps the couple develop their financial agreement together. And then once that's collaborated on and discussed and made, then you and or I would refer them to attorneys who are known to be very collaborative, and they will look over all the documents and they will file the paperwork. So there's much less attorney involvement, and it's more at the end versus at the beginning. That's, in a nutshell, kind of what the upside down divorce process is. One important part of that is that we believe that separating the discussions related to children and the related to money is really positive. We don't want them to be intermixed, and because they can get kind of cloudy in terms of intentions. In other words, does somebody really want more of the kids because they want more money, or is it because of other reasons, for example? And so we like to focus on the kids first and get that taken care of, and then focus on the money part. So in a nutshell, that's what upside down divorce process is.
That's quite a nutshell. And I know
that's quite a nutshell. Yes.
And I know from working with you and Tracy for years and years that, you know, this process can work very well. Now, I do want to make a disclaimer here that, you know, you and I are both based in Georgia, and Georgia laws are different than the rest of the country. So, you know, I recommend that people who are going to go through this process, wherever you are, that you maybe consult with attorneys along the way, and ask questions, but you can still consider this process starting with the children and the parenting plan first. And if you have questions, you consult, but not going through the traditional filing like happens in a litigated divorce. This is what's different here. People don't understand this filing process. In a upside down divorce, or when people come to me first, let's say they start with the financials first, your attorney in the end, although you may consult with them along the way, in the end, if you have worked out the children and the finances, then you basically can come to an uncontested divorce. And in that case, your attorney is filing the paperwork to solidify the divorce, to end the divorce, rather than starting a lawsuit. So there's a difference there, and it's a big difference, not only in the way that you do the process, but also probably in the amount of money that you're going to spend going through the divorce. Because you know, an average divorce in America is about $15,000 to $25,000 in legal fees per spouse. Take that in a minute, folks. That's for real. And many cases go far beyond that, and the divorce can take on a life of its own. So this is a way for people who can work together, who want to put their children first, to have options and keep control of the process and of the amount of money that you're spending in legal fees, which is where the bulk of the money gets spent in a traditional divorce. So that's great information, Andrew. So how did you and Tracy come to this whole idea of doing this upside down divorce?
Well, it's been kind of a process over the years. I mean, my wife and I have worked with families and individuals that have been affected by divorce for many years, over 25 years at this point. Tracy specializes in children, and I specialize in couples, and we work with individuals. So we've come across all kinds of scenarios and all kinds of different situations. Tracy works with kids who have parents who are going through the divorce process, kids who have been in a divorce process and now they're in divorced families. We've worked with adults whose parents have gone through divorce. So we've had a lot of contact with people who have experienced divorce, and a lot of times in the most destructive way. And it really can ultimately leave some almost potentially generational scars, like you talked about, in terms of not knowing some of your family because of your grandparents. And so we really are in the business of helping people have the healthiest lives possible and lowering as much suffering as possible. So we have been kind of focused on trying to find a better way for divorce. Then many, many years ago, we got involved with the collaborative law group. And that was definitely a much better and healthier way to go about it. It was a very collaborative team of members that work on divorces.
A variety of professionals, right?
Variety of professionals, yes, yes. Financial people, attorneys, everyone's involved to try to help the divorce go as smoothly as possible. And then we've been kind of tweaking it more and more since then, and trying to streamline it, and then came up with this specific approach related to upside down divorce, where it's the goal is to put children first, number one, for mental health people to focus on the mental health parts, which is the communication, the children and all that, and for the financial people to focus on the financial parts, and then for the attorneys to focus at the end on the legal part of it. So that's kind of how we developed the system over the years, and the reasons why we did.
That's great. That's great. And I love the process. Like I said, having worked this process with you for many years here, we know it can work. We know that families are going through this in a better way. And, you know, when you combine the legal, the financial, the emotional support, and in this case, you're doing it upside down. But when you combine those three items, when going through divorce, you definitely get the best outcome possible for your family, your finances, and your future. And I love this. I love this whole approach. So tell us what might be some of the challenges or obstacles people might face that can make it difficult for them to embrace this approach.
Sure. I think one of the obstacles is that it's new and unfamiliar. And I think a lot of times when people are about ready to go through divorce, they understandably have some anxiety about how it's going to go. And so most people are familiar with the traditional way, and because something's new, it's a little bit scary. And that's kind of a normal thing. When things are new, it's scary to us. So that's one obstacle. So we try to provide as much information possible to reassure folks and give them more security in the process. That's one obstacle. Another obstacle is you have to have both people on board to do this process. If you have one person who's not willing to, for whatever reason, you can't really do the process, because it takes two people who are willing to go through this particular process to do it. And so that doesn't always happen. Another obstacle, which is a huge obstacle, is sometimes family and friends. Family and friends have their own biases towards divorce and towards you. And so they often will say things like, oh my gosh, don't do that. You need to hire a high power attorney because your spouse is going to get you and you better watch out. And I think they really generally mean well. But if you're hearing that information from your family and friends, then that can be certainly an obstacle to try this different approach, because people get into sort of this protective mode and kind of paranoia mode, and oh my gosh, what's the other person going to do? Are they going to try to take the kids from me? Are they going to try to take money from me? So I need the most legal backing that I can get to. So that's definitely another obstacle, which I'm sure you've seen frequently, Lisa.
Yes. And you know, that's another reason that I mentioned talking to an attorney during the process. You know, if you give this process a chance, and I hope that many of the people who are listening to this will consider it, because it's not a done deal. You know, if it doesn't work for you, you can always go back to the traditional litigated way. But
absolutely,
many times if you're working with someone as skilled as Andrew and others who do parenting plans, they can help you get this set up in such a way. And then you consult with the attorneys along the way, your individual attorneys,
Mhm.
to make sure that your rights are being
Protected.
considered, and that
Mhm.
what is being written up is going to
Mhm.
be, passing the muster of the judge. And you don't have to worry about those things. The same thing happens if go through the financial part of things. At any point in time, and in fact, I absolutely require, once folks come to me as a part of working with a financial neutral, that they have attorneys to consult with along the way, because I can't answer their legal questions. And we'll go through the financials and create a plan and talk about what this looks like, and there are inevitably going to be legal questions there. So like I said, when you can work with an attorney on a consulting basis along the way, and if you are able to reach consensus through the parenting plan and through the financials, when you get to the end, the attorney is going to be able to draft paperwork as an uncontested divorce. And that is quite a different flavor. And listen, folks, if you get to the end and you still have some issues, you've still gotten further along and saved a lot
Mhm.
of money along the way. And your issues are going to be far greater that have to be worked out than if you had started with the legal process and then try to figure out the parenting plan and the financials, and you're struggling and you're using the children as pawns. So
Mhm.
this is a great way to go through things, and don't worry if you have those legal questions. You can include that at any step of the process.
Absolutely. And yeah, I want to just reiterate the 2 points you made, Lisa, because I think those are very important. One is that you can always default to the traditional way of divorce. However, if you start the traditional way of divorce, it's very difficult to backtrack if you're already in a kind of contentious situation.
Yes.
So I'm of course biased because I'm a mental health person. I believe mental health is one of the most important things in all of life for children and adults. So um, I'm gonna I always encourage people, if they're both people are willing, to try this process first, and they always have the back door of, or the backstop of a traditional way of doing it if they need to, if it falls apart or whatever.
Mhm.
And the second part that I want to emphasize, you said, is even if I get with the couple 80 or 90% of the parenting plan done, and then the last 10% they are just not willing to budge, they can take what they've already done to the attorneys and say, we've agreed on this 90% of these things. We just need to help. We need some help in negotiating these last 10%. Or the same thing with finances, I'm sure. That if you get most of it done in this process, there's a lot less back and forth with attorneys and legal and kind of tug of war than there would be otherwise. So I think those are 2 important points.
Yes, yes. And so, it's great to know that there are options out there, folks. That's what this is about, letting you know that there's not a one size fits all way to get divorced. You have choices. You may not know that they're out there. And again, we're happy you're here learning about your options, because this is going to make a huge difference in your financial status at the end of the divorce, and also the way that your family moves on. This is about saving the fabric of families. And there's, the edges may be tattered. There may be, the fabric may be torn in half, but it's still a family. And we
Mhm.
want to help you to avoid causing undue damage to your children, to yourselves, to your other family members. They love and care about you. And like Andrew said, they may have your best interest at heart, but they don't always know what they don't know. And so
Mhm.
we want you to at least look into these other things and explore this with your spouse and see if this might be a good option for you. So I have a few questions that I'm frequently asked about things. How do you find that both spouses have to agree to use the upside down divorce process? I think you said this is a
Yeah.
two-party process, right,
It
Andrew?
is. Yeah, it is. Yeah, most of the time can try to convince couples to do both, to do this, but they both have to agree. frankly, just like both couples have to agree if they want to stay married and work on the relationship, they both have to agree to do this healthy process if they're gonna get divorced in this way. Yes, they do. Yeah. And one of the things I appeal to people about is most of the people that I come in contact with minor children, one of their biggest concerns related to divorce is the children. And so what I always say to them is, why don't you give this process a try, because ultimately it will be best for your children. Even though divorce is difficult, it does not have to be toxic, and it doesn't have to be life altering for your children. So many people, because of that, are willing to try it, but you do have to have both spouses agree to it.
Understood. And is someone legally protected if they use this process?
Absolutely. But one of the things I say over and over again is, I'm not an attorney. I'm not giving you legal advice. And like what you said, sometimes it's even helpful to have somebody that you can talk to along the way if you feel that way. But nothing that I do and nothing that you do is really legal at all until it gets all written up and gone through the courts. So I always try to explain it to people along the way that these things can always be tweaked and altered along the way, these agreements, and that nothing is legal until it gets filed with the court. So absolutely, that's why attorneys are involved, to make sure everyone is legally protected and it's legally the way it's supposed to be. Absolutely.
Good points. So how many sessions are needed to develop this parenting plan?
So that's a question that I get a lot, both in my counseling work as well as my parenting plan work. As you can imagine, people say, how long should we be in couples counseling, or how long is this process going to take? My answer is generally it depends. There isn't necessarily a hard and fast number. In terms of this process, I would say on average around 8 to 10 sessions, which takes 10 hours basically. And it really depends on how cooperative and collaborative the couple is. Even more challenging couples that don't get along very well can do this process, but it may just take longer to kind of negotiate and navigate through that process. So I would say probably you want to look at realistically 8 to 10 sessions overall.
Okay.
Yeah.
And what does it typically cost to go through a process like this?
Yeah, good question. So for me, my fee is $300 and Tracy's fee is $300 per hour. So 8 to 10, you're talking about around 3,000 total in that ballpark. Once we hand it off to the financial people, everybody, all the financial people, including yourself, have different rates and things, just like different people have rates for different for the parenting plan. So what my guess is around 3,000 for the parenting plan, around 3,000 for the financial person. Does that sound about right in that ballpark, Lisa?
Well, yeah, I again, like you, I don't quote anything until I actually see the complexity. We have very simple, and there's nothing simple about the finances of divorce. Folks.
Sure.
Have situations with credit or other matters that need to be looked at. But we quote a flat fee once we've had an opportunity to meet with clients on we call a discovery session, a $99 1-hour consult. And then once we're able to determine the complexity, we will quote a flat fee according to whatever package level makes the most sense for folks. So, it could be something as simple as, a couple $1,000s, and it can range to far beyond that if we've got, lots of rental properties and commercial properties and business valuations. And, it's very hard to give a flat quote, but we do work under a flat fee. So at least people know the expectations and the delivery.
Right.
And that's, far beyond, and you're working with people who are specialists in the matters of, the child parenting plan and the financials. And so you're getting the expertise at a lower cost. And like I said, but early on in the program, you're getting people who are experts in in the matters, and you're going to be spending far less than you would in the legal aspects and getting the expertise in each area overall. So it's
Yeah.
far better to work with specialists in each individual area. And if you can make this work with you and your spouse, and it isn't for everyone, but we hope that it is for some of the folks here. So
and I would also add to that you're also paying one person to do the parenting plan and one person to do the financial parts versus two attorneys to do both of those things. So
you're not specialist in those matters, so
exactly. So yeah, I think there, to me, if you can work with a neutral like myself or like with Lisa, you're working in a collaborative kind of fashion, and you're working together versus having two different people kind of do a tug of war to try to negotiate the contracts. So
absolutely,
I throw that in there too. Yeah.
And this isn't about plugging our services, folks. So we hope you are here. We're here for you if you want to reach.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But let me, I'm going to pull up some slides here and show folks a few things. So bear with me while I do that. And here we go. And what I want to show you is that, this is a roadmap that's available for folks at divorcetownusa.com. And, you can see that we have the Put Kids First Parkway as one option coming into Divorcetown. Start here to put your kids' needs first. We have Amicable Avenue. Start here to work cooperatively with legal guidance, and the Financials First Freeway. Start here to gain financial clarity first. But what we want to do is keep you out of court, where the most money comes. And by the way, that $15,000 to $25,000 per spouse does not include going before a judge and doing a full-on trial and all of that. You can be looking at $100,000 or more trying to prepare for court and bring in all the experts that are needed. So we call that, traditional litigation, and that's Duke It Out Drive and Bigger Bucks Boulevard. And we hope that you will stay away from there as you travel through Divorcetown. And let me go to the next slide here. I'm sorry, my assistant is not here today. And there we go. I'm trying to figure out the technology and run the show at the same time. We also offer a free divorce financial fitness kit at my main site for my divorce financial planning business, and that is divorcemoneymatters.com. And here you will find a plethora of resources to help you get started. So we have a Smart from the Start ebook, 50 must ask attorney questions to things to consider if you're going to interview an attorney that you may not have thought about. And it's not about grilling them. It's about understanding that there may be things that you don't know about that you should. And so you have questions to get you started. And then really importantly is the every document you should gather checklist. And this is a way for you to get yourself started so that you can, it's a working checklist in Excel. It tells you all the things that you need to start gathering, and you can check them off as you go and really get yourself organized so that you can go through the process and save a lot of money. And we also have a resource at divorcetownusa.com that I want Andrew to speak about. This is a book that Tracy has written, your wife, and I love this.
Yeah, she wrote this. It's well, like it says, it's for children specifically, and it's an activity book to kind of help kids understand divorce better and kind of express their feelings. So it's a great book that is a resource for parents when they're going through the divorce process.
That's great. And I love this, My Family is Changing. It's a drawing and activity book for kids of divorce. And I think it's, what are the age ranges on this, Andrew?
You're asking me questions that Tracy would be better to answer.
Okay. We'll have her on another show.
I think it's like about 6 to 9, somewhere in there. In that range. Yeah.
And so here's the resources again, folks, divorcetownusa.com. You can find myself and Andrew there and a lot of other great professionals who can help you, and divorcemoneymatters.com, where you can get that free divorce financial fitness kit. And we also have the Divorce Help and Hope support group. You can find that on Meetup or at Divorcetown in the resources section. And Coming up on our next show, Tuesday, January 11th, my guest will be Rosalind Sadaka, the founder of the International Child Center Divorce Month. That's what this is all about in January. We're focusing on the children, excuse me. So I hope that you will join us next week. And I'm going to stop share there. And that's it for today, folks. Andrew, thank you so much for being with us, and we'll see you
You're
all
welcome.
next week.
You're welcome.